He raised his glass like a judge preparing a verdict. "My real children," my father said, his voice booming across the hall, "are the ones who made me proud." Applause erupted. Laughter. Clinking glasses. Flashes of phones. Then his eyes found me. Cold. Certain. "You can leave." For a second I thought I misheard, but no one else did. The laughter thinned into silence. His words hung there. A public execution disguised as a toast. I stood slowly. My dress felt heavier than guilt. Then my husband stood too. And what he did next? Well, that's the part none of them will ever forget. Years earlier, I used to chase his approval like sunlight through glass. I was the daughter who stayed, who listened, who handled the chaos he left behind. But he always preferred the loud ones, the sons who borrowed money and called it ambition, the daughter who called only when she needed something. Still, I forgave him. I kept showing up until the day I shouldn't have. It began the night I overheard him on the phone, his voice low and tired, muttering, "She was never meant for much. Let her husband handle her." I didn't make a sound, just stood there, invisible, realizing I was more of a burden than a daughter in his eyes. I didn't cry. I just stopped being his audience. Over time, I noticed the little things. The new house deed that excluded my name, the business shares accidentally transferred to my brother, the trust fund he promised my children, redirected. Each slight felt deliberate, precise, almost like revenge for being the one who didn't fail loudly enough. I learned to smile through it, to nod when he bragged about his empire, to sit quietly at dinners while he toasted to everyone else's success. But silence, I've learned, is its own weapon if you know how to use it. So I planned. Not out of hatred, but out of clarity. The first step was legal. I had quietly kept copies. Emails, bank statements, documents signed in haste. Then came the second. Conversations. Calm, casual ones, with his partners. I mentioned inconsistencies, a few concerns, seeds of doubt planted where trust once lived. Then I waited. My husband thought I was being dramatic at first, until I showed him the numbers, the forged signatures, the offshore transfers hidden under our family name. His face changed that night. That's when he became my ally. We didn't confront my father then. We prepared. When the retirement dinner came, it was perfect. Gold banners, velvet tablecloths, the great patriarch being celebrated for his legacy. Everyone who had ever benefited from his power was there. My brothers, his investors, old friends who owed him favors. He didn't know half the company board had already seen the reports my husband sent quietly, discreetly, 2 weeks before. He didn't know the financial audit was underway, or that the retirement fund, the one he'd bragged about, was frozen under investigation. I sat there listening to him toast his own brilliance, knowing that by morning every account in his name would be flagged, every partner would be calling for answers, and every person applauding would realize they were clapping for a man whose empire was collapsing. And then he looked at me. "You can leave." That was his final act of control. I stood calm, my pulse steady, but before I could speak, my husband stood too. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a single envelope, the official letter from the board, signed and sealed. He placed it on the table in front of my father. "Effective immediately," he said, voice clear, "you're no longer the chairman. The board voted unanimously this morning." Silence, then chaos. Murmurs, gasps, camera flashes frozen midair. My brothers stared like they were watching a stranger. My father looked at me then, not as his daughter, but as the woman who ended his reign. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. He left the hall before dessert, shoulders smaller. Applause replaced by whispers. People turned to me with that uneasy mix of awe and fear, the kind you give someone who just rewrote the rules in front of you. When it was over, I walked out into the cool night air. My husband caught up to me, eyes searching. "You okay?" I nodded. "I'm free." The stars felt closer that night, like the sky had been waiting for me to finally look up. I haven't seen my father since. The company restructured, the family fractured, my brothers keep their distance. And I learned peace doesn't always come from forgiveness. Sometimes it comes from exposure. He taught me power was about control. I taught him it's about truth. At his dinner, he raised a glass to his real children. He didn't realize his real lesson was sitting quietly across from him, learning how to burn a kingdom without ever raising her voice.